Hi, my name's Tony Lofthouse. The reason I'm making this video, I'm hoping, is to help those out there with the Chinese 40-watt laser cutter. I purchased one about 15 months ago and a bit dubious at the time. Purchased it, it came, installed it, and it did what it said. The software worked, but there are one or two things that I discovered that you needed to in order to get a clean cut, safer cut, and to actually be able to utilize the board that you have and see where your laser's going to cut and fire. Well, there are a lot of things out there on the market that you can get, but I went along and purchased myself a 3D printer. Originally I had them printed, but since then I've purchased my own 3D printer, and it's to actually print the items that I have on my laser cutter. And now on a well-known auction site sell them. They're not expensive, but they make a big difference to the work you produce and the quality. And the items are a laser holder and a laser pointer. It's not a laser unit that will cut, it is solely a pointing laser, and simple air assist nozzle. Now I'm going to show you on mine in a few minutes exactly where it's installed and how to install it. I'm by no means an expert on this, but I've had a lot of feedback from people that's purchased these, and believe it or not, I've sold an awful lot of them, and they've all gave me good feedback. A lot asked me how it is installed and what's the best way. Well, unfortunately, an email back doesn't help sometimes if you're not that inclined is to interpret that, because everybody interprets the wording differently or how to do something. But I will show you, and it's open to yourselves on how you would do it yourself. Firstly, I'd just like to show you the quality of some of the work that I've produced. It's only a small item, but I mean, it's not something that mass marketed. It's personally for my use, but it's not everybody's taste. I'll just go over to the engraving machine and I'll show you some of the work produced. Now here we are now at my small engraving machine, CNC engraving machine. Now I'd just like to point out that if there's any out of focus, because I'm new to this, but that's the quality of the work that you can produce. That's simply a 2mm MDF board painted white, and it engraves down to about 1mm deep, and then I hand paint it, and then it goes on what I was producing Christmas Eve boxes. There's quite a lot of work because it's all hand painted afterwards. Now you can see some of the fine details on that. They are exceptionally clean cut, and that's from a 40-watt laser that people said it's not very good. Well, there are one or two things you have to do in order to get it to that quality. That's just one. As you can see there, lovely, clean, straight cut. It's another one that's painted. It's they're still in the finishing process because I haven't had a chance at the moment. That's a Christmas tree ornament. It's plywood, that. It's painted MDF. And that's just something else that's engraved. Now, as you can see, this is just, and I have quite a lot of them here. You know, to cut a circle, that fine. It's pretty good, and for the money, if you're a beginner to it, it's well worth the expense. I think it cost me about £400 the laser cutter. There are some modifications to it, but I'll show you that. I'll go over to the laser cutter and then I'll just demonstrate. Right, here we are at the laser cutter. It's a typical 40-watt Chinese laser cutter. It is the one with the control panel that is digital. It's one I preferred. £400 from eBay it came. I unboxed it and there's nothing damaged. It all worked, but as everybody's eager when they receive something like this is to get the unit up and running. Well, there's a lot of things that I didn't realise at the time, but I do now, and I've got quite proficient at using it. But there's a lot of you know, videos on YouTube, a lot of help, and that's where I got mine from, and that's the reason why I'm trying to give something back. Obviously for the people that have purchased my, and for others, purchased my air assist nozzle and my laser pointer adapter holder. Right, right, this is the working area. It's typical 40-watt laser unit, and as you can see, there's my laser pointer unit and air assist nozzle. Works quite effectively. I'll go through it a bit later in the video. I'll just go through the machine first really, and sort of how I wired it up. There's different ways of wiring it up, but I think I got the better way. But I'll go through that now. I'll just show you a bit of the panel. Right, this is the typical digital panel for the 40-watt Chinese lasers. This is a digital display that reads the temperature of the water that is pumped round the laser tube. That's not working, that's just 19.5 degrees C, so that's what it is at now. It very rarely goes above that, but you just keep your eye on it. It's a sign that something's overheating, so just keep your eye on it. Then you've got a main control stop knob, emergency stop. If at all anything's going wrong, or you see anything going wrong, just hit that. It'll kill the machine completely, and stop anything working, or anything getting any worse anyway. That's your main power switch, on and off. So when you power that, the whole unit, the water pump, everything becomes live. I'll just have to switch that on at the mains, because that is, just bear with me. Right, I'm back. Just a quick climb over the machinery. Right, this is the main power switch, on and off. So if I switch that on, everything lights up. I'll just go through the basic controls. This digital display here is the percentage power of the laser tube, obviously from 0 to 100%. I run it mostly at 35%. Don't need to go any more than that for MDF. If you're engraving, cutting, I like 2 passes at about 60%, and it'll cut clean through. But 35% is what I use it at mostly for engraving. You can alter that by the plus and minus, which is simple really. The switch to the side there, and this is quite critical really, that's the one that switches your laser off. That is quite safe to go inside the cutting area and do whatever you're going to do. I always make sure that that is switched off. It is a safety issue really. I'll go through what happened to me when I left that on. So that switches it off. Press it again, that brings it back on. The switch there, you can just see there, that is a laser test fire switch. So you press it, and as long as you press it in, it will fire the laser. So you only quickly press it and it will fire the laser. The red light underneath is the instruction light. It's the light that will flicker when your computer is sending information to your machine, and it's flickering all the time as it's passing data. That's all that is. This switch here switches the power to the board which controls the head and the laser machine itself. That is a light which I'll go through in a minute. When you press that, it illuminates the cutting area, and the switch there is the switch which controls the laser pointer. I've actually put that in. It's simple enough to wire in, but I'll just go through what happens when you switch the control switch on. This at the moment is free moving. You can move that wherever you want, so there's not a problem of whatever you're touching, but make sure that that is off. Okay, as I explained earlier, what happened to me was I actually was messing around putting a bracket on and the wiring for this, and I thought, and I was lining it up so that unit was lit, so it meant that there was power to the laser tube. So as I was adjusting this here with the other hand, I actually test fired the laser, but what I didn't remember was to take my pinky out of the way there, my little finger, and before I knew it, I had the laser at 40% shot into my little finger here, and it made a neat hole. I did feel it, it was very painful. Neat hole about a good millimetre and a half straight into my side of my finger. Clean, no mistake. So it shows you, if that had been up at 100%, the dangers of firing that when you're not protected. You must keep your fingers out of the way from between there and there and there and the hole inside. I'll just put the light on for you because it'll illuminate a little bit better. Now the light on the panel switches that on. As you can see, it's quite bright, and that is where the laser comes out of, underneath there. You can see there's a hole, and it hits that mirror, then hits that mirror, and then fires down. But as you can see, that's free moving. But if I touch that switch, that immediately powers that, and it sends it to home position. Now it's still, you can still move it, but it will always send it to home position. I always have that off so that I can move it about. I'll put this back onto here. I mean, it's pretty straightforward, is the panel. and just go through a bit of how I wired my air assist nozzle up and the laser pointer. As you can see, there's a black tube that comes off from the air assist nozzle. It's fastened on there. This is actually air hose from an airbrush. I got it off eBay for about £12. It's quite long. I found this better. The silicone tube from the fish tanks, 6mm diameter silicone tube from aquatics supplies, is fine. I did use that, but I like this better. I purchased that, warmed the end up in, because it's a little bit harder to put on than the silicone tube. So what I did was I put the end in a cup of hot water straight from the kettle, wait till it got soft, pushed it on, let it cool, and it's been fine. The pointer cable then power cable can actually run and be cable clipped to this flexible hose, which is ideal really. And then show you inside the panel. Make sure not to touch anything while you're in here as well. Inside the panel there is a power supply, variable power supply. That's the power supply for the laser unit, and that's the variable power supply that I've installed. It just runs from the mains. It's been wired into the back of the input of the power supply for this, straight from the mains to this, and then the 4.5 volts which the variable power supply is set at comes from there, follows it right round up, and all I've done is wired a switch in which you saw on the panel earlier, and all I've done is switch the live. That's all I've done. So there's a break in the live, and that switches it on. It goes back down and along here to this laser pointer unit. Now I've had lots of emails. People said to me, does it matter if you get the wires the wrong way around? Well, yes it does, but you won't damage anything. If you get the wires the wrong way around, the polarity the wrong way around, it just doesn't work. So switch it back and it works. A little bit of shrink wrap over the tubing to join the cables, and it's as simple as that. I hasten to say some people have actually wired into the power supply of the laser unit, but I'm not an electrician and I'm not confident enough to start messing around with that, and I'm a great believer in let that power what it's meant to power, which is the laser unit. That simple power supply for the laser pointer, that's all it's powering, nothing else. So you can't get anything go wrong. If that goes faulty, you just replace it with another one. I think it cost me about £5. If that goes wrong, it's going to be a lot more than £5. So that's why I did it that way. The air nozzle, the hose comes from there, and as you can see goes here. A bit of flexible hose. It's connected to some silicone tubing here, and then from the silicone tubing it goes along the cabling out of the side down there, and that goes to a little valve that I can adjust. I'll just shut this door. You can't normally get into this because it's got a screw in, but I've taken it out obviously to show you. It runs along the back of the machine and up to my air pump. I purchased this off eBay. I think it was about £29. It's what they use in aquatics. It's good, it doesn't overheat, and it supplies ample air for the air assist nozzle. It's not noisy, no different to a fish tank really pump if you sat aside one of them, so it's quite adequate. That there is what you can see is the vent, and a bit of duct tape just seals it a bit better, that's all. It's a extraction fan from this unit. Now the extraction fan is a must, because you'll find out very quickly that this will fill with smoke, and a lot of people don't realise smoke is not just something that's the remnants of you cutting or burning something. It's actually flammable gas. So, and as it builds up, it gets a lot stronger. So you need to extract that quite quickly. Now I have my air hose there. It's normally connected on the back, but I've just taken it off to show you. And it runs up the wall, across the roof. But mine actually goes to another extractor fan, which is, it pulls it from here. It's an inline one. I think that's about £20, but it extracts the smoke so quick, or the fume so quick, that I get nothing in here whatsoever, and it goes out of the workshop door into fresh air. So it's well worth looking at improving that. But for the time being, as long as you can get your extraction hose to fresh air, you're fine. I'll just go back in here. Now I'd just like to go through some of the safety issues with air assist nozzles. I do send instructions out with or safety instructions with the nozzle when I post them. And one gentleman rang me up and said the air assist nozzle set on fire, and he wasn't trying to blame me, but he was saying, what's happened? Well, I told him straight away what happened. He was new to laser cutting. He'd bought one of these and thought he could just put one of these on and start to work. Well, the one thing that you must do is make sure that your laser beams are aligned. Now when mine came, it worked, but I didn't have an air assist nozzle on. So I thought, the instructions clearly said make sure that your laser tube and your beam is aligned. So I went on YouTube, and YouTube did say, plenty of videos, the same thing. Make sure before you work it that the laser beam are aligned, because in transit they can move, vibrations can alter them. So it's a simple job. I'm not going to go through how to do it, but you've got to make sure that the laser beam from the base of the tube mirror to this mirror is aligned with that mirror to fire it at 90 degrees. Because what happened to the gentleman was, he bought my laser pointer holder, which was fine, that doesn't come anywhere near the laser unit or the laser beam. But when you put the air assist nozzle on, there's a hole at the bottom, obviously. It's about eighth of an inch diameter. But when that fired, the laser beam was out. It still worked, but it was firing at an odd angle. So what happened was, it fired the laser beam through the wall of the air assist nozzle, of which this is plastic. It's made from a material called Z-Ips. Well, it will burn. Most plastics will burn, but it's not designed to be hit by a laser. So it obviously set fire and burnt a hole in his unit there, and he got panicky and started worrying. So he got in contact with me, and I said, look, I said, I'll send you another air assist nozzle. There's not a problem, because obviously it's something that in his wisdom of setting it up and putting the air assist nozzle on and using it, thought that's great, it'll work. Well, he obviously proved wrong. So I told him, take the air assist nozzle off. I sent him another one. He lined the lasers up as it described on YouTube, put the air assist nozzle on, connected it up, and bingo, it worked perfect. And then he realised what the panic was. I mean, I can imagine him that setting on fire for his first cut, plus the power settings were up at maximum nearly, and well, one or two things, but it's not the first person that's had a mishap with it like I did. It's, you know, you learn by your mistakes, but with this you don't want to try and get mistakes. You want to progress with cutting and engraving safely. It's not a, you know, it's not brain surgery, but it soon catches you out. But the reason why you have air running to an air assist nozzle is, if I remove that, that will work quite happily. But if I have on the panel 40% engraving power, with the smoke that surrounds that, it'll reduce the power of the beam. So hence you'll probably end up with about 5%, 6% reduction in power as that smoke swirls around from the cutting area. Now your fume extractor is designed to take it away, but unfortunately it doesn't take it away instantly, so from the cutting area, so which is surrounding the beam. So what you have to do is actually force that smoke away from that cutting area, and that's what the air assist nozzle does. It actually pressurizes inside there because it's cone shaped. It doesn't affect the laser beam, but what it does do is keep the smoke from going back up there and discolouring your lens, the lens that the beam passes through, which gives it its power. Well, to me, it's a must. Most industrial units that come have automatically got these on, air assist nozzles. So it not only is a cleaner cut and you're using less power, so it's less strain on your tube, but what it also is, it means it's a safer cut or safer engraving, because you're not actually getting the vapours hanging around. And if you can imagine, if you get the cutting speed wrong, if you're going too slow and too much power, you'll get what they call off there, flame out, and that can hit your nozzle. Plus too much of it can set your nozzle on fire. So you try and adjust your cutting speed and the power to do just what you want it to do. But if you've no gases there which are combustible, then that's dispersed, so you'll find out you'll get very little flame out. You can still get it, but it's only when you've got your power up high and your cutting speed slow and trying to cut through material in one go. Well, I'm not a great believer in cutting it in one go. If it's really thin, that's fine, but I like to have a couple of passes at least. Engraving's fine because it tends to do it quite quickly, passing backwards and forwards. So these are a must for safe operation, really. The pointer is really there for, if we look at this board here, there's a piece cut out already. Now if you want to, I can get another piece out of there, utilise that board, but I don't know, and you put your laser head over, and I've got 1/8 of an inch to play with within the board, then you might be lucky and test fire it, but you won't know where the outline of the pattern is. You've no way. You can test fire there and start it off, but you've no way the rest of the board as to where it's going. And on your program you can actually set it, and it, without the laser running, and it'll go on the outside of the periphery of what you're cutting or engraving, so it shows you the amount of board you're going to use. That's great, but when it gets over here you might be off the board. Well, the beauty about the laser pointer is, if I just switch it on, you can see that laser pointer. Now it might look actually wider than what it is, that's just the video picking it up, reflection, but it's quite fine. You can adjust that with the knob on the end of the laser pointer. Now when you send that round on the program with the laser switch off, you can see that all the way around, so you know exactly the cutting area that it's going to do. And if it's not right, then you can leave that on and move your board accordingly. get it all in. So it's a safe way of working as regards not going off your board onto your metal base, and it also utilises every piece of board, because you know what you want is less waste. You know, so it serves a purpose. They're very good. I'll show you how I set it up anyway, most people. Right, what I'm going to do now is I'll put the laser switch on. So you've got to be, that's on now. 35% is fine, or 30%. Now what you do is you actually put it onto a piece of wasteboard, keep your pinkies out of the way of that. I'm not having another hole in it. And then what you do is you go to the test fire switch, and if you watch that at the board, it's just test fired, and it's put a little black mark on that board exactly where that laser fires. So then what you do is you put your laser on, and that lines up exactly where your beam is. If it doesn't, just adjust it. It's not super critical. It is there only as a rough guide, as a pointing aid, but you get used to using it. And once it's lined up, that's it. You don't have to bother. But also what it does is, when you set the, I'll just turn the power off on the laser again. There you go. Now when you're actually focusing the beam, when the laser unit comes, it has a focusing distance from the lens down to the surface of the material, and it passes slightly through, still focused at the finest point, but then at some stage it starts to get wider because it has a focal point. I'm not going to go into great detail, but I've worked mine out to what it should be, and what I do is I have a spacer bar on there, and I know what my focal point should be. So I'll just move this out of the way, take that wasteboard out, pop that on, and what I do is that just skims the surface of that. So if I was cutting card, that'd be fine, but if I'm cutting the board that I've just had in, the 2mm board, then I'd sit that on top, because that gives me my focal distance from the end of that nozzle to the top of my board. So I adjust it. Now obviously you want to, it'll pass through, so it'll slightly widen as it gets through, but that's how I do it, and I do it on all four corners, all 4 points. Move it there, 4 corners of this adjustable board, and then once I've done that, I know that my laser is at its best for cutting. It's not something you have to go to university for. I was never a good scholar at school, but I did my best, or so my father said. You'll never be a brain surgeon, lad, but as long as you can use your hands. But anyway, that's another story. And that's how I lined it up, and that's how it works. It's pretty simple, but it makes this unit more efficient. For what it costs, it's well worth its money. I'm going to leave, you'll be able to email me if anybody's got any questions on the video. It's not something that it's the first video I've ever done, but I just felt like I've used people's videos on YouTube so much in order to help me, and I thought I'm going to return something here. And it's, you know, I mean, I sit hours and hours on end watching videos from YouTube. You know, I have a CNC engraving machine, a small 30-30, and I've also a big 6090 CNC machine, and I'll probably do some videos later when I start using those, because there's things that I've found out with those that's helped me, but it's all been from YouTube. All been from YouTube as this, so it's something that I feel that I've got to give something back, and that's what I'm doing now. Obviously that's about everything that I'm going to do today to explain the units that I produce. I'm going to do a video and show how these are printed, because it's quite interesting. I mean, I did a lot of research, went on YouTube again, when I originally got these printed from somebody, and then I thought, no, why can't I do it myself? So what I did was I went on YouTube, researched 3D printers, and I thought, well, if I'm going to print them, I'm going to get a good printer, and I bought the Zortrax M200. What a cracking printer that is. It's never failed a print, and I've printed all sorts of things, and I'm going to do a video on that to show it printing, but I'll show some of the things that I've printed and how accurate they are. It does what it says, you know. I think I've had one failure, and that was because of my design. Barring that, the things produces item after item. It's really good, and wasn't cheap, but at the time it's what I felt I needed to do, and I'm a great believer in if you're buying something, get something that will do more than what you want it for, and you can always push it a little bit further. But I'm going to, as I say, I'm going to do a bit of a video on that, and then I'll show a bit on the engraving machine, but that won't be coming just yet, because I've got to go see if there's any mistakes on this. But I'll just switch this off. It's annoying me as the noise a bit. There you go, the power's off now. Right, here I am again. As I say, that's my video for today anyway. I've just been out shopping with the wife. Didn't want to, but I thought I'd better appease her, and I hope it's helped. If it's only helped a little bit, it's been worthwhile. But I just hope that people realise that's out there that's got these 40 watt lasers. There is nothing wrong with them. I've got one. It came, had to adjust things, but it worked. I mean, things do happen where they are broken transit or faulty wiring. I didn't have any of them issues. It came and it worked perfect. As I say, I lined the lasers up, and then I realised, reading on YouTube, as I've previously said, air assist nozzles, went along that route and produced them, and they work great. So there will be an email if anybody wants to email me on anything at all. I will help you. I'm not an expert, and I don't profess to be an expert, but I'm just showing you how somebody, a novice like myself, can learn and progress and get better with one of these machines at using it, and safely, really. And that's the issue. Safe. Be safe, because these things, if they go wrong, you never leave them unattended. That's a golden rule. You don't start it running and go upstairs or go outside and do a bit of gardening, or you'll end up with problems. You stay with it in the close vicinity. If it's a long program, unfortunately it's tough. Like I've sat in here sometimes in my workshop for 2.5 hours, but at the end of the day it's a safety issue. So be safe, always be safe, #1 priority. And I hope to do another video shortly, and I'll see you soon. So thanks very much for watching and listening. Bye.